everyone, Jamie Madison here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to be doing the Simon Says Stamp August card kit. This card kit features the Party Like a Panda stamp set. It is so cute and adorable. And to stamp my little panda in this card, I'm going to be pulling out my Arches cold press watercolor paper because we're going to be doing some watercoloring today. Now for the ink I'm going to be using one of my favorite inks, which is the VersaFine. This ink is so pigmented, nice and dark and rich, and especially since we're using a more black and white image, I wanted the image to be nice and saturated in color. I didn't want it to look dull. So after I have my panda stamped down, we're going to add a balloon to his hand to give him a little bit more party festive look. For the balloon, I didn't want it to do it in black. I wanted it to look nice and airy. I didn't want it to be heavy. So for the balloon, we're going to be going in with my anti-static powder bag. We're going to cover my entire area for that balloon, including my panda. Really cover the panda because that VersaFine, it kind of stays wet for a while and I don't want my powder to stick to him. So I went in with my Versamark for the balloon. And then I'm going to be going in with my Recollections. This embossing powder is silver. So I should have did clear, but you wouldn't have been able to see the string. So I thought silver would be perfect. I went ahead and heat set that till it was smooth and melted and shiny. Then I went in with my Mission Gold Magello watercolor set. There's not a whole lot of coloring that you have to do with this panda because pandas are black and white, but I wanted to give him a little bit of shading and shadow to kind of bring him to life. So I just went in with some grays for the panda and very watered down grays. Not a whole lot is showing there. I went ahead and did some pink under his cheeks to give him a little bit of color to him. And then you can do your party hat, whatever color you want to do, rainbows, blues, pinks, greens. But for him, I wanted to do pink. I wanted this to be for a girl. So with my watercoloring, I always work lightest to darkest because it's less room for error. If I add too much color, I can always remove and then add some more. But if I go in darkest, it's going to be hard for me to adjust that. So I went ahead and just colored him in. And added some pink to his toes as well, and pink to the balloon. So my main colors are going to be pink and yellow with this panda. For my balloon, I wanted to give it a nice good shadow. I really wanted it to look light on one end where the balloon had the highlight and really dark on the other end. And with this watercolor paper, it does absorb a little bit differently than my Bristol Smooth that I'm used to working with. So it was a little bit of a learning curve, but with practice, you will get the hang of it very quickly. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish up my panda, adding some pink to his toes, and we are going to move on to the background image. For this background image, I'm going to be pulling out my Bristol Smooth. So I went ahead and covered the entire background in my anti-static powder. And then I'm going to stamp a whole bunch of the balloons that we used from the panda. I'm also going to take my Recollections in silver that we used, and I'm going to heat emboss all of these balloons. With that anti-static powder, it keeps that powder in the place that I want it to be, and it keeps the rest of the background nice and clean. I went ahead and made sure my balloons were all smooth and melted so we can go ahead and color them in. For the coloring, I just did the exact same thing that I did with the panda. I also took out another piece of my 110-pound cardstock paper, and I'm going to be cutting this out in a square stitch die. This die is called Gina Marie Stitched Square Die. And then I'm just going to take the leftover square and kind of line it up to where I want my balloons to be showing. And then I'm going to take a pencil and just kind of draw a small little line to where I want to focus my attention on. Don't cut this out because if you do, it will just fit directly in that square and you're not going to have enough room to adhere this to your panel. Now for my front panel, I'm going to go ahead and take my ATG tape roller and just go around the border of my square so we can adhere our acetate. For the acetate, I'm just using the hot off the press. That's the only one that I happen to have on hand. And I went ahead and pulled my backer off. Then I went ahead and pulled out my foam tape, and I just doubled it up to give a nice well to put our sequins and beads in the shaker card. I'm going to go ahead and line my square up with this foam tape so everything stays where it's supposed to stay. Once I have all my foam tape down, I'm going to go in with my sequins. The sequins I'm using is Neat and Tangled Light and Luminous, and I just took a couple scoops of that. Then I went in with my glass beads. I just had a couple of these laying around, and I figured that this would be perfect to kind of move these sequins around, so I put a couple spoonfuls of that in there. After that, I'm going to go ahead and adhere my background to my foam tape, and then I'm going to bring out my ATG gun again so I can adhere this background to my card base. Now we have our shaker card, and we just have to finish adding our panda and elements. And I just want to let you guys know that recently I purchased a Scan and Cut 2, and I wanted to kind of walk you guys through how I'm going to cut out my panda using my Scan and Cut, because I know a lot of people are interested in this machine. So I'm going to first go to my home, and it's going to tell me that my cartridge is going to move, so make sure you keep your hands away. Then I'm going to go in to your pattern. This is where you're going to test your machine to make sure that it is cutting correctly. If it is not cutting correctly, this is where you're going to go to your settings. Now when you go to your settings, you're going to scroll down to the 4th page. It's going to have all your cutting speeds and your pressure, but the 4th page is where you want to go to make sure that your image is lining up properly. It's going to be scanning, cutting, adjustments. And in order to do this, you want to make sure you're using a 12 by 12 piece of paper. This machine is going to cut from 12 to 12. So if you're using a smaller piece of paper, you're going to cut your mat, which is not good. Now, this first image is of a little dragon that I cut, and I'm trying to get my camera to focus. As you can see, the line is a little bit farther down on his mouth and on his tail. It should be on the line exactly. So I did a first alignment, and this is how my dragon came out. You can see it's a little bit smaller of a line, and then I did the 3rd adjustment, and it came out perfectly. So don't be discouraged if you get your machine and it is not cutting exactly to the line. You can also add a border to your image if you like that white border outline. I'm going to be using this machine a lot. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up because I don't want to use so many dies. So you have 2 options. You have direct cut and scan to cut. Direct cut is if you want to scan your image and then directly cut it. Scan and cut is going to save that image so you can cut it out at a future time exactly where it was. So if you're doing something that you don't mind where that placement needs to be, then that is where you're wanting to do, so you don't have to scan that image over and over. But it's not going to keep that image directly where it was supposed to be every time. So to do my panda, I'm going to be doing direct cut. I don't want it to save my image, I just want it to scan it, and I want it to cut what I have out. So I'm going to push the load button. It's going to load my paper in, and then I'm going to click on my machine. You can upload from a cloud version. And I'm going to click the color button, so it's going to load and scan it in color. You can cut it out in black and white, so if you haven't colored your image in yet, you push the black and white. So now it has my panda on the screen. I'm just going to zoom you guys in a little bit closer so you can see this little monitor. And what you want to do is move these bars as close as you can to the panda so the machine kind of zooms in on your image, and you will see a black outline. When you see that black outline, you want to make sure it is around your panda or your image that you're using. So I went ahead and zoomed up a little bit. It does have 200 zoom and 400 zoom for people who don't want to pull out your readers every time. So if you want a border on your image, like this little dragon that I'm going to pull out here. On the last dragon, I have a little bit of a border. If you want to do this border, you hit this circle and you just hit once. It's 0.04 is that border. I don't want a border on my panda. I want it to cut directly on the lines. So I left the border off and I'm going to push cut. Then I'm going to go ahead and put scan, and then I'm going to push start. It's going to go ahead and cut my panda out, which is so fascinating to me how quickly this moves. So now that I have my panda, I'm going to unload it by pushing the unload mat. And here is my panda. I'm going to use the little spoon that it comes with because this is a very sticky back holding tape. And here is my panda perfectly cut out. It even cut out the string for the balloon. Isn't that amazing? So now I can add my panda directly to my card. And I don't have to worry about fussy cutting anymore, and my hands are so thankful for that. I went ahead and took my ATG gun, and I'm going to adhere my panda to my background. Now that I have my panda adhered to the background, I'm just going to go ahead and start with my sequence and my stamping my sentiment. The sequence, we're going to pull back out that Neat and Tangled Light and Luminous, and I'm just going to add a couple of those to the front. I added 3 to the top and 3 to the bottom. 3s are a good number for the eyes to like, so I went ahead and just kept those on there. And it pulls in the background to the front of the card. Now for the sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and put my panda in my stamping platform. Now I wish I would have done this before I added, all the sequins and stuff, but I went ahead and made it work. And I stamped It's Your Birthday. And as you can see, the D is giving me a little bit of a problem, so I had to put a little bit more firm of pressure on it, and I ended up getting it to stamp. It kind of had me worried there for a second. Then I went ahead and took this panda that was laying down, and he looked so cute, so I went ahead and stamped him in the corner inside my card. And then I just took a couple of the other sentiments, which is Happy Birthday, and I stamped that in the center of the card as well. I still felt like something was missing in the center, so I went ahead and took the Happy Birthday hat and stamped that right above birthday. And as I always do, I went ahead and added my stamp to the back that says Handmade by Jamie Madison Card Designs. If you're interested in this stamp, I've had a lot of people email me and message me about this stamp. This stamp was from Etsy, and I will put the link down below. There is no affiliation links with that. It's just the link that I used to purchase it. I also purchased the medium size one if you're wondering what size I purchased. I went ahead and took my shimmer pin, added that to the balloon in his hat, and then I took my white gel pen and added some accents. And my card is complete. I did one in blue as well, so I have one for a boy and one for a girl. I just love the way that these turned out, and thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you soon. Bye!